Este video está traído a ustedes gracias a Gameflip. Buenas gente, como sabrán, he estado trabajando con la página More MMR, así que poco a poco estamos traduciendo todo el contenido para traerlo a la comunidad latinoamericana de Dota 2. En esta ocasión les traigo una muestra, un botón de lo que pueden encontrar ahí. Es uno de tantos videos, se llama el arte de Gankear. Tienen que saber, gente, que las guías tienen una muy buena calidad de producción, ustedes ya lo verán. Y la teoría está respaldada por jugadores profesionales.
Dota is extremely dynamic. Clashes between heroes happen every minute and they end up with somebody's death quite often. An unexpected pop-up of a character at somebody else's lane with an intention to kill the enemy is called ganking. The early game rides entirely on ganking. Pulling off such a lane deal, one can win the lane, the early game, and then the entire match. Yet, first things first. There are lots of various strategies, but all of them may be divided into two large groups, farming way and ganking way. Every player has a choice on which streak to pick depending on their personal preference, style, game role, or character. In theory, one should constantly shift those ways during the game, but it's important to know where to stop. All position players, except for the first, should gank. Support, roamer, jungler, midder, or offlaner. Sometimes even the carry ought to teleport onto the hard lane and use his ultimate. But the thing is that a failed gank is a waste of time, skills, and what's worse, it grants frags. That is why farming at the lane is better sometimes than making of lame ganks. If everything seems to be alright at the lane, do not leave ganking yet, because you are leading at the moment, and that's your opponents who need to undertake something. Thus leading, for example, in the mid, get ready to meet some guests, glance at the minimap from time to time, and play carefully. Ideally, it's better to let your supports know about the probable aggression dash at the mid to make them be prepared and on the alert. One can also perceive it from the other angle. If everything is quite bad on your lane and your team cannot or do anything to help, go and try to gank somebody down. For example, imagine you're a support. An aggressive triple comes to your hard lane and makes a kill several times. You have a choice, either to hope and wait for a miracle, to keep standing on the same lane, or to try your fortune somewhere else. It's quite an obvious decision, right? Again, ideally, it's better to notify your allies about your intentions, ask your carry to endure a bit more, while you are going to put pressure on the other lanes and lure enemy supports there. The entire early game is riding on smart ganks. In mid-game, ganks happen more and more rarely, yet they can still be implemented by some particular characters such as Storm Spirit, Axe, Legion Commander, Slark, or Shadow Fiend. Those characters are able to deal a great amount of damage in a very short period of time single-handedly. Yet it's much more effective and safe to gank with teammates, as you are going to kill a target for sure, and probably you will have a chance to kill target's cover as well. In addition, you will have lower chances to be killed in the clash with several opponents. Now remember, solo ganking and ganking along with two teammates happen to be two significantly different things. First off, the enemy is going to notice disappearance of such a big amount of characters on the map. Second off, heroes who gank with a Shadow Blade do it fast and silent, and when coming in triple, you should probably use Smoke of Deceit, otherwise you are going to be spotted with wards immediately, and the enemies will escape or arrange a counter gank. In the late game, the amount of ganks is next to nothing. Everybody tries to go into bigger groups. If you attack one person, all the others will come to cover him at once. Any gank turns into a bloody 5v5 combat. As mentioned earlier, all roles except for carry should actively gank because carry's priority is farming and avoiding of enemy ganks. Roamers gank the most, which is understandable. It's his job to roam and make some buzz. The second place is for support, yet it does depend on the kind of support. In case it's a hypothetical passive warlock, then you better stand your lane and make pulls to gain the 6th level ASAP, because warlock with and without his ultimate are two completely different characters. But as soon as it's possible to summon a golem, one can pay a visit to the other lane to create hell on earth. Third place is for the midder. Even though only farming heroes who gank in extreme situations visit the mid quite often. For example, in case they found a good enough rune. Just remember, when you leave the center, it's only a matter of seconds. The enemy midder can sound the alarm in case he saw you trying to get the rune and didn't come back. you can take advantage of this situation and farm in the woods for a little bit until foes are on the alarm sitting beneath the towers. Yet this trick will not work out if the opponents have wards. You need to remember that wards only last for 6 minutes, so the 6th to the 7th minute is a perfect moment for ganking, as the initial wards have disappeared and the new ones are not yet installed. However, the most important thing in mid lane is to remember that while you're ganking, the opponent midder is gaining EXP and pushing the line, and you are, on the contrary, missing EXP, losing money, and in the worst, losing a tower. That is why mid is the most gankable target. It's much more profitable to kill the enemy midder several times than to get a long-awaited help from the center. A gank with a teleport is a brilliant move. It's swift, silent, and unexpected. Push the line, move to the woods in case of wards at your rise, and then teleport at once not to waste time. Also, remember to notify an ally about the gank. In case the result of your operation is only a poor dead enemy support, consider your operation failed, as you are going to lose more than you gain unless that support is going to stay at the fountain after the 10th death. That does happen sometimes, rarely enough though, so do not count on that. The most desirable targets for ganking are the enemy carry and the midder. The former is because you stop his farming, the later because you prevent his ganks and his farm too. Remember that nearly all heroes teleport somewhere after death in order to avenge. If you killed, say, an enemy 6th level Nyx assassin, he's going to start ganking at 100%. The Smoke of Deceit is a great help in ganks. Do not even leave home without it. Your move is faster and wards are not able to notice you. Just brilliant, right? The best use of smoke is 2 supports ganking in the mid, going right through the wards and breaching the midder's back. Such a gank is incredibly difficult to prevent. One just has to leave a perfect spidey sense open and to get the information from the offlaner all the time. And even then, overly passive situations at the central lane is punishable. The enemy is simply going to outdo you in farming, and what's worse, enemy supports might have just gone into the hard lane if you can't see them at the safe point. Remember, the great thing is moderation. Only the balance between aggression and composure will help you perform at your best in Dota. One has to feel when it's better to farm and when to gank. Such a feeling comes with practice, of course. Alright, here's what we've learned today. Ganks form an incredibly important part of Dota. Due to ganks, one has possibility to win lanes early game and entire matches later on. You gank and you also be ganked. Try to predict such enemy attacks and make yours unexpected. Most of ganks are performed in early game. It's favorable to go team ganking in mid game. In addition, you better not go on your own in late game at all. Ganks are most performed by supports or midders, yet it does not mean that offlaners and carries should stand by. The great thing is moderation. One has to feel when it's better to farm and when to gank. This applies to all roles.